Lord, help us with this study. Make our minds fresh, Lord, and clear. Help me, Lord, that my mind is not fuzzy, but it's sharp and accurate, Lord, to speak plainly and clearly and logically. Father, we need your Holy Spirit to do that and to work in our lives. Please help us. Amen. All right, this study number 2, Men and Their Potential. I've called it Square Pegs in Round Holes. The first time I gave the study, I said it's round pegs in square holes, and somebody said, that's wrong, it's the other way around. So, is that right now? Square pegs in round holes? That's the saying, okay. They both would apply for my purposes. Some interesting things about, I'm using the illustration, but interesting things about pegs in holes. They're not meant to be permanent fixtures. As an ex-structural engineer dealing in steel, rivets are meant to be fixtures. If it's riveted, it's permanent. But a peg's meant to be put in and taken out. That's the first point. Flexible. That's interesting, isn't it? So it could be put in the same hole or another one the same size. Needs to be the same size. Remember that. But any peg could fit in any hole if it's the right size. It's not meant to be permanent. That's an interesting point. Pride makes us immovable, inflexible, rigid, fixed. Pride's the problem with many of us. We don't like to be taken out of our little slot and put somewhere else. We get frightened. But God made us to be flexible, didn't he? Many times God asks us to do a U-turn. Many times he said to Moses, right, Moses, I know I said that, but now I want you to go left instead of right and end up in Rephidim, or I want you to go here. And Moses did not know where he was going in the wilderness. To Elim, where the wells were, and then somewhere else in the wilderness of Zin. And you're following the cloud, men. You don't know where you're going. If you know where you're going fully, then you're not in God's will, because it's following the cloud. It's a daily or weekly or monthly year. And I seek God. I've just had a week's retreat with Barratt Ministries to seek God's will for this year. Because what God told us last year was brilliant. I hope I fulfilled it. But that's no good for this year. I say, Lord, it's a new year. Why do you think God's made seasons? Why do you think God made seasons? For variety, to keep us quiet, stop us moaning so there's change. God made seasons for new starts. Every day is a new start. That's why you sleep. Sleep is a death, you know. Did you know that? Sleep is a death to God. When people died, he said, oh, they're not dead. They're only asleep. Natural sleep and natural death is only sleep to God. Death is a spiritual death, the lake of fire, to God. He has to use these terms because we're carnal, we don't understand. But it's sleep. And it's a type of death that when you wake up in the morning, the past is dead. Sad to say that so many Christians are dwelling in the past and what they did, oh, well, I failed yesterday. Well, blow yesterday, it's dead. You cannot bring it back. You cannot alter what you did yesterday. If you can alter it, that's different. It's still living. If you can alter it, it's living. But because it's absolutely dead, you cannot alter one thing that you did yesterday. Not one thing, not one word, not one breath. You can't breathe, you can't smell. You can do nothing that you did yesterday. It's dead. That's why God gave us sleep. So you start a new future. The darkness, because creation came out of darkness. God created darkness first so he could bring light out of it. And God gives you sleep so you can come out with a resurrection. Every morning's a resurrection. Don't you wake up like that? Hallelujah. Or do you wake up like a bear with a sore head? Oh, Monday. That's for non-Christians. That's for dead carnal people, isn't it? Wake up bright. It's a resurrection. It's a new day. And so God made us seasons and that to give us new starts. And New Year's resolutions are not a bad thing. Better to make a resolution and fail after 3 months than never make a resolution. Because you've had 3 months of success till you failed. You've moved a little further. We think, oh, there's no point making resolutions, I never keep them. Well, how long did you keep them? A day? Well, that's a day more than you kept them last year. You've done it for a day. Thank God you got through a day. Some people don't even make resolutions. They don't even want to change. They think they're all right. We think if we don't keep it 100%, we fail. That's nonsense. You can never do anything 100% the first time. We aim too high. We're too proud, aren't we? Obnoxious we are, really. Say I'm going for 100%, and when you get 3%, say, well, that's 3%. Next time it's 5%. Next time, instead of keeping my resolution until January, I'm going to keep it for 2 months. Well, that sucks. That's progress. 12 years, you're getting 100%. No, 10 years, isn't it? My potential isn't mathematics. God left that out of me. Plus many other things that I'm not going to mention. So, I didn't intend to say all that little tirade. That was so that we're flexible. New starts. Don't be frightened of change. God pulls the peg out. Listen, he'll put you in a hole that fits you if you let him do it. Yes. The trouble is we try to put the square peg in a round hole, it doesn't fit. So there's 2 points here, isn't it? I have to be the right shaped peg, don't I? So the peg has to be right. There's a two-way thing. The peg has to be right as well as the hole. So you're the peg. Now you have to be right. Your part is to get yourself right. And the second thing is, you must only put yourself or allow yourself to be put in a hole that was purposed for you, that was made for your destiny. Don't try and fulfill somebody else's destiny. Too many Christians, I know loads of ministers who should never be in the ministry. It doesn't need a prophet to tell them, it just needs common sense and a pair of eyes. You can see it. They're clumsy, they hurt people. They should never be a pastor. They can't handle people. They don't know how to handle people. They're insecure. An insecure man cannot be a leader because you'll damage people. If you're insecure, you cannot be a leader. You'll damage people. When they threaten you, you'll blow up at them. Any pastor who has a go at somebody and isn't gracious under pressure is insecure. When you tell a pastor his fault, so I don't like this in the church, pastor. If he says, oh, well, if you don't like it, leave. That's not a good pastor. That's not a way. Do you say that to your wife? I don't like the way you've done that, love. Do you say, oh, well, get a divorce then? Is that what you say? Well, pastors say that. That's wicked, isn't it? He's insecure, you see, he feels threatened and he's got to attack you to protect his insecurity. You need to get secure before you get in the ministry. Don't practice on the church. Don't practice on God's people. You're not allowed to practice on God's people. You practice before. You go through the wilderness before your ministry. Jesus went through the wilderness before he preached. Go through the wilderness first, not in the church. Don't make the church the wilderness if you're a pastor, if you're in leadership, for goodness sake. It's not fair on the people. It's not godly, is it? You'll have your trials, but it shouldn't be the wilderness. So we've got to find both. Make myself the right peg and make sure that I'm in the right hole, the right slot. Jeff's talking about finding a slot, so I don't want to go on to that. So listen, let me call potential, our potential, the talents, natural, and the gifts, spiritual. By gifts, I don't only mean the 9 gifts of the Spirit. I mean, gifts of teaching or whatever, as well as the 9 gifts of the Spirit. You could call the gifts to the church, gave gifts unto men, apostles, prophets, pastors. Administrations, helps. So it covers everything. So let's call that's our potential, isn't it? And let's call our achievements developed talent, because it needs developing. No man is born a preacher. A lad of 3 can't preach, can he? No lad of 3 is a prophet. We're not mature, you see. So our talent, whatever God's put in us, needs developing. Now, God will not develop what he's put in you. That's the bad news. The good news is God's put something in you. The bad news is that he won't develop it. That's up to you. If he's put it in you to be great at sport, you will never be a good sportsman unless you try. How do you know how fast you can run if you never try? How do you know if you'll be a great football star if you never kick a football? Or great at the javelin? You could have been great at some things at school you've never even tried, perhaps. I must say that it's sort of instinct, your destiny's instinct. How is it that some people have a leaning towards sport and they try one thing and brilliant at it? You know, some people try another sport and they don't excel at it. It's like a natural, I believe you pull towards your potential. We miss it. Because your parents say, oh, sport's no good, you can't earn money at sports. You want to get your GCEs and they knock them off it. Yeah. And often it's natural that all they want to do is they just love sport. And parents, they love music. And so you can't earn money at music. You'll end up in a pop group and getting on drugs and that. You want to get your academic career. But maybe that's not there. Watch where your kids are going. Don't put them where you want them to go. You're not God. See what God put in your kids. Don't try and steer your kids, for goodness sake. I've seen so many Christians, kids backslide because they've tried to dictate, tried to make them a holy Joe when they're not. In that sense. Don't try and fit your kids to what you want. See what God's put in them, you'll see it. They have a talent for this, a talent for that. Oh, Dad, I'm not really interested in church. Well, when they're 15, don't force them. If God's put something in them of God, and I believe he has if you're a Christian, take your hands off them and say, well, God, I'll leave them with you now. Because you'll force them away and in the end they'll be rebellious. It's not easy, is it? But you know, if you see where your kids are going and support them in it, support them in the music, support them in the sport. But he has to miss church on Sunday. So, God didn't make Sunday for church. Did he? Church is every day. Church is the people. Now, they need some discipline and things, but do you understand? If God's calling to that, fancy a man going to church. Oh, I mustn't miss my church on a Sunday morning. And God's calling to evangelise. Maybe he should be out getting people to get in the 6 o'clock meeting, the gospel meeting. Is he wrong? What's his calling as if evangelist? That's to be outside the church, not inside it. Now, he needs food. He needs fellowship. But his main priority is to win souls, so that's his focus. But we want to conform everybody, don't we? It's not easy to be free. It's not easy for a pastor to let go of people, and we want them all there on a Sunday. I understand that. I'm preaching against people. It's very difficult, you know. But you've got to see what God's put in people and help them to be fulfilled. And if we don't develop what God's put in us, we'll never achieve it. Now, in the natural, we understand that. I'm advising you for your children, because I think about 80% of Christians' children backslide, 80%, something like that. They don't all go on, you know. And it's these things that we're not seeing what God's put in, and we think they all should be this and should be that. And Sunday school teachers and different things, and they've no interest. So find what they're interested in and help them. God can look after the rest. The devil didn't put any talent in anyone. The devil wants to use the talent, but he didn't put it in them. The devil can't put music in. Oh, he's into music, you know, he'll go in the world. Doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. God put the music in him, not the devil. Develop it and get them, help them to play godly music, tell them what's good and bad. But talents and gifts are not everything. Character is king. Character is king. Without character, you cannot develop the talent. Now, talent is everything because it's what God's put in you for your potential. With no talent, you can't fulfill anything, so God's put something in you. So in one way, talent is very, very important, but it's secondary because only character can develop it. If you're brilliant at football, you know people who are really talented and never get to the top. Why? Because they won't train. They're so naturally talented in that. But nobody at world class can get there without training. Don't care how naturally talented you are, it takes two. It takes the talent and it takes the training. And anyone will tell you There's often 10% talent and 80% application. At work, at business, everything else will tell you. In other words, the application is the character. It's the character that develops the talent. And actually, you'll achieve more with a little talent and a lot of character than a lot of talent and no character. You'll actually achieve more. Now, a lot of talent and a great character, you're going to be a Moses. God's looking for those people. God is looking for those people. Now, you've all got talent. You've all got something, and you can all achieve 100%. Nothing to do with the talent, to do with the character. Now, God put the talent in you, the gift in you, but he didn't put the character. You have to develop it. You may seem surprised that God didn't put a character in anyone. He put a personality. I say there's a difference. So you have a personality. You're happy. You're carefree. You're thoughtful, meditative, focused. This is to do with personality. That's not character. Character to do with whether you're honest, whether you've got stickability. That's character, isn't it? Do you understand? That's character. But personality is whether you wear bright clothes or whether you wear dull clothes. Whether you dance everywhere or you're quite sober. That's just the way God made you. He makes some birds black and some birds colourful. Some birds sing and others, you never hear them. They crow. That's personality, the way God's made you. With a big, strong body or a little weak body. God's made you how you are. You know, bottle-top glasses and can hardly see and a bit deaf, or else all your faculties. God's made you like that, that's all right. But your character has to be formed. That's why it's so important bringing your children up. We maybe should have a study on that, shouldn't we? We've got one on men and family life. Maybe we cover that. So we've got to develop our character. And we've got to change our character. Because our parents weren't perfect. However good your parents were, they've left you with a character. You got it from your parents, really, didn't you? Because they said, look, you be honest. Like they said to my wife, never show your legs. Never do this, never... You know, there's little principles they told you as kids. And it's amazing how it forms your life. A place for everything and everything in its place. There's little principles and you can still remember them, even if you don't do them. So they're trying to form your character. But they weren't perfect, let's accept that. And as a Christian, now we have to form a godly character. So some have a hard job to do because they've not had much help from the parents. It's sad, but you've got to face the fact. Some of you had not much chance. Others have had a wonderful background. But then they can be full of pride and think they don't need to change. So we've all got problems. But we've all got to change into the image of God. And that's the key to developing your potential, I believe. Because if you can't stick at anything, you'll not develop your potential, will you? And that's to do with character. Godliness, faithfulness. It's fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace. Faith means faithfulness. That's part of a godly character. How can you go into business for yourself if you can't motivate yourself? Most people get up for work in the morning because they'll get the sack if they don't. And if they work for themselves, they wouldn't get up. They couldn't get up, they couldn't do it. They need that rod for the back. Many people only do things because they're under pressure. They're very faithful, but they're not faithful really. They're frightened of the sack. Or how many people could get up if they didn't need to every morning? It takes discipline, doesn't it? It takes character. And these are the things we have to develop. That we're not doing things because there's a big rod over us. You won't get your money, you won't do this. What will the pastor say? Every Christian should be self-motivated. This is not for just leaders, you know, and salesmen. Self-motivation. It's a godly character. The Bible talks about it. It doesn't say self-motivation. That's a modern term. You need self-motivation for your marriage. When it's floundering a bit, oh well. You've got to motivate yourself. Hey, I've got to do something here. You have to do something. You're the man. You're the leader. The marriage is floundering. Self-motivation is a great part. Jesus set his face like a flint. He motivated himself, that's what he said, for the cross that was, the joy that was before him. There's always a carrot at the end. A happy marriage is worth discipline for. It's amazing how Christians are afraid or lazy developing the talent, or justify the character. They justify why they don't develop it. Ah, well, if but and just don't exist today. If they won't allow it in the Marines, if but and just, those words don't exist in the Marines. They won't allow it. So if they won't allow it in the Marines, I was going to do it, but I'd have done it if, if he'd have done that, or, if my wife had done that, I wouldn't have hit her. If but and just aren't allowed in the Marines. It's too dangerous in warfare. It's no point saying, I was going to put my gun back together. It's too late. It's not allowed. And it shouldn't be allowed in Christianity. A disciple should never say if. I'll do this if or but. Well, I would have gone on the mission field, but this, but that. They're excuses. If but and just are always excuses. Get them out of your vocabulary. They're excuses. If, but and just. Tell the truth. I failed. I forgot. Not if or but. I was just going to. I forgot. I failed. That's honesty, you see. Honesty is part of your character, not your personality. All right, God didn't give you a personality to be dishonest. That's to do with character. So we need to be exposed to change. I've been exposed many times. I've told you how I realised I wasn't as talented as I am. And I've been exposed lately. I've realised how old I'm getting. Know how old I am. Yeah, I've been watching some videos and seeing how much like my dad I am. Now, my dad's 86. Now, when I stand and preach, I'm used to that. I'm used to seeing myself in the mirror, so I'm deceived. You don't know what you're like when you see your face in the mirror. It ages slowly, so you don't know, do you? Because it changes every day by a millionth degree. Over the years, you don't realise you still think you look the same. Or a little bit different. But if you saw how other people see you, I saw myself walking from the back. I thought, I'm getting a bit bored again. I'm just like my dad. And I saw myself playing football with my lad. Now, when I'm playing football, I feel all right. And I can still fall on the floor and not hurt myself and things like that. But when I looked at myself, I thought, that's an old man playing. That's a granddad playing with his son. And next year I'll be 60. I cannot believe it. And I'm realising, I've got to accept. I don't really know what I'm like. I am looking older. You forget, there's not a bounce in my step. I can still beat Nathan at running. But there's no bounce in my step anymore. I've realised I used to have a bounce when I ran. When you get older, you don't have the bounce, do you? You walk differently. You walk completely different. There's no bounce. And I'm realising I've got to accept what's the truth, where am I? And it's not nice being exposed, but you can grow old gracefully. That means accepting it, not trying to make what's it, lamb out of mutton? Don't know what they say for men. They said a woman's dressed up as... But they'll be the same for men. But attitude is very important. Very important. We've got to be positive, haven't we? Now, it's not wrong to ask questions. It's not negative to ask questions. People say, well, you've got to be positive. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Why or what? But they're not as good as how. Why should I do this? Why have you given me a woman like this, Lord? Why have you straddled me with this one? Why am I strapped up with my job, Lord? Why? I can't get away from it, Lord. Why have you done this? What did you do that for, Lord? Why and what? It's all right to question, but it's not as good as how, is it? Lord, how should I make my marriage better? Not why have you strapped me up with this woman? Why am I tied to this job? It's how can I develop it, Lord? I am strapped here. So what's the way forward, Lord? How do I address the situation? How do I act in the situation? I've got this bad marriage. I've got a bad marriage, Lord, but how do I attack it? Not why. How? How do I handle it, Lord? There's a way to handle things, isn't there? So questions are not wrong, but let's change it from what or why to how. How do I go forward, Lord? What's the way forward? How can I fulfill my potential in this bad situation? Not why I'm in the situation, you're in it. So how do I get out of it, Lord? How do I develop? I've got two little points now for leaders and for servers and workers. For a leader, how do you develop those under you? We're talking as individual men today, but if there's leaders here, that means you're boss at work or anything, you know, a leader's a leader. Well, you can't lead unless you're in front. Stating the obvious, but most pastors don't realise it. Most pastors lead from behind, the slave drivers. They push in the people, motivated, come on, come on, come on. Now that's the world. If you're a leader in the world, you've got to motivate people, haven't you? Come on, drive them, come on. How many sales did you get this week? 10. Well done. 12 next week. That's pushing them, that's driving them, isn't it? How many souls did you win? Come on, you've got to win more souls. That's driving them. Isn't it funny how the pastor says, come on, you've got to win more souls? He's not won any personal souls for 5 years, but he's telling the church to win souls. He's a slave driver. If he was bringing 10 new people to the church every week, he wouldn't have to say anything. His example as a leader, he said, look at the pastor. Every week there's 10 new people. How does he do it? You'd be knocking on the pastor's face. Pastor, how is it that every week there's 10 new people that you brought? We can't bring anyone. What's your secret? And he'd tell you. He's a leader. You've got to be ahead. You can't lead if you're ahead. In the world you can. Your position in the world can make you a leader. Your position in the church does not make you a leader. Your position can make you a slave driver or a bully or a dictator. There are no dictators, there's no bullies, there's no slave drivers in the church. There shouldn't be. You're not there to slave drive them. Moses led the people from the front, not from behind. And a leader who's somebody who says, I've got something from God and I'm going with it. If you want to follow me, that's all right. And he goes. And if nobody follows him, it's all right. He's got a vision and he's going. You know, if you're a leader, is anyone following you? If they're not, you're not a leader. If men don't get behind you or your ministry or teaching or whatever, if you can't employ anyone and say, I'm not working for him, he's a dog. Well, you're not a leader. In the world, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm paying the wages. If you're a bad boss, you probably have to pay more wages to keep them, you see. A good boss, they'll love you and want to be with you. But it's not so in the church. So we've got to be ahead in knowledge and experience and character or godliness. And we must have the ability to motivate. You need to motivate people, but only because you're doing it by example. That's how you motivate them. Be followers of me, like I am of Christ. Fancy Paul saying that. But he knew he was paying the price and he was in front. And he could say, look, use me as an example because Christ is far too much. I'm a stepgap. See how I'm following Christ. Get behind me, follow my teaching. And I shouldn't be on the platform, should I, teaching, if I can't say, well, follow me. That sounds pompous. But you've got to be ahead in knowledge. What's the point of teaching if you haven't got something new to tell the people? If you can't motivate them? If you can't say, well, come and see how I live and watch my character. Not claiming to be perfect, but surely there should be something to follow. If you're a leader, there should be something to follow in the man you're following. You need to be a good judge of character. Don't seek to be a leader, you know, lightly. Because you need qualities. An elder, there's a big list of qualities that disqualify him if he doesn't come up to it. That's the thing. If he wants to be an elder, it's a good thing to seek. Anyone who wants to be an elder is sought a good office. But these are the qualifications, and they're all to do with character. He doesn't say he must have the gifts of the Spirit, you know, to be an elder. Did you know that? Never mentions the gifts. Never says he must be a charismatic personality to be an elder. Do you know that? It says he must be able to bring his own children up well. He mustn't be greedy, a filthy lucre. Money mustn't be important to him if he's a leader. All to do with character. He mustn't be a brawler. He mustn't be a big mouth. All these qualities. He must have respect of his wife and children. All these qualities to be an elder. An apostle doesn't need those qualities. An evangelist doesn't. It's an elder. A pastor doesn't. An elder never mentions a pastor needs these qualities. A pastor is a shepherd, but an elder needs them. And they're all to do with character. So you need to be a good judge of character, don't you? If you're going to have people under you, what's the point of picking the man to be in your, over a few men if he's a bully? You've got to know yourself, that's the key. To knowing others, you've got to know yourself. You mustn't try and motivate people that can't be motivated. Why waste your energy? Work on the character. What's the point of flogging a dead horse? Nobody would flog a dead horse, would they? When he's dead, he's dead. What's the point of keeping him? Come on, you beast. I'll get some life out of him. He's dead. We all know you don't flog a dead horse. So why do we flog dead Christians? They've not been motivated. They've been in 10 churches and nobody's been able to motivate them. They sit in the pew and all they do is warm the seats, cheap central heating. That's all they do. They're faithful at warming the seat every Sunday. They're dead. What's the point of trying to motivate them? You can't motivate somebody who's got no character, because you motivate them today while they're in the church, and as soon as they leave the church, the motivation's gone. Because character will carry it through. You can motivate people with character because they'll say, right, I've got that, and they'll keep that principle and start practicing it from the day they leave the church for the rest of their life. If they've got character. But what do I try and motivate people? Hallelujah, pastor, glory, pastor. And they're all hyped up. They go out of church and it's all switched off. And then they come back next week and nobody's changed. You've got to do the same thing. So they get motivated every week to do nothing all week and come next week to get motivated again. Come on, you've all got to win souls. The pastor should only say that once. Win souls, pastor. Oh, we didn't know that. Right. Next week the church is doubled. But it doesn't work like that, does it? Because they haven't got the character. Do you understand what I'm saying? Character's more important, isn't it, than motivation. Now, if you said to a person, you need to win souls, do I, pastor? Oh, yeah. Right. How many, pastor? Well, you should bring one new person a week, right? Hell or high water, I'm going to bring someone in next week. I'll drag them here, cajole them here, pay them to come, I'll get them here. Character does it. There's no if button, just, well, I would have brought this man, but... Did you offer to pick him up? Oh, no, I invited him. Well, he's not been to church for the last 40 years, so why should he change the habit of a lifetime unless somebody knocks on his door? I've come to collect you for church. Oh, I forgot. Of course he did. Well, it's all right. I've come 10 minutes early. You've got time to get changed. Get your dressing gown off. If you want to do it, you do what you want to do, my wife says. You'll do what you want to do. And it's character that does it. So don't try to motivate people who are not changing. Work on the character. And then you probably won't have to motivate them. They'll be queuing up the door. Can I have another job, pastor? It's very difficult as a leader to discern strengths and weaknesses. You say, I can see that. That's a weakness. That's a strength. That's easy. No, it's not easy. Because your strength is your weakness. And your weakness is your strength. They're neutral. A weak point is also a strong point. A strong point is also a weak point. Do I need to explain that? I will do in a minute. The last one, position doesn't equal competence. We know that, don't we? Pick people who are competent, not people who would like the job or people who would do it. Often we ask a person to do the job in a church. Well, he's faithful, So what? So is the man who sits in the pew and warms it every week. Is he competent? What's the point of asking a man to be an elder who's faithful but can't do the job? But he's faithful, he's here all the time. Yeah, but he can't do the job of an elder. But we'll give him the job of giving out the iron books because he's got no job and he is faithful, What's the point? Being faithful there every week. Hello, brother. Praise the Lord. What's the point of having him at the door? Kick him out and get somebody with a smile on the face. Don't give positions to people who are not it's competence, people who can do the job, isn't it? But we feel sorry, we pity the flesh and God doesn't. The flesh is supposed to be crucified, so don't you pity him. The man's got to change his attitude, hasn't he, before he can stand at the door. He wants to be nice to see you. They've had a hard week. Some of those men there have nearly had a divorce on their hands that week, and they come to church and pretend they're smiling, and somebody says, hello, brother, praise the Lord. Because he's just had a row with his wife in the car. But he's got to have the character that will always have a row with his wife in the car when he sees people. Good to see you, brother. How are you doing? And it lifts people up. So all personalities from God, but our character determines which master uses it. I'm getting back to the point of strengths and weaknesses, because it needs explaining, doesn't it? And this is it. All personality comes from God. So if you're happy, if you're sad, or whatever your personality is, joyful, thoughtful, romantic, energetic, that's often to do with your personality. I've got two lads, and one's like a bundle of fun. Isaac, he throws himself about, I can't wear him out, his energy. Nathan, who's older, has not got the same stamina, mentally or physically. He's a very focused person, Nathan, but he hasn't got the same mental stamina. Isaac will stick at it. When they both were building the kitchen with me and lifting bricks and mixing mortar and that, try and get them a bit strong, After half an hour, they'd say, Dad, I think I'll just have a rest and go on the computer. All right, son. Do you want a rest? Isaac? No. And he would not stop. He had that tenacity. That's a mental thing, not physical. Nathan's quite strong. He played rugby. He's not unphysical, but he hasn't got the mental power to carry him through. Different. So they're all different personalities, but your character determines which master uses it, whether it's God or the devil. They're both after it. So, we've no excuse, because you are the person managing your personality. Did you know that your wife doesn't have control of your personality? Did you know your boss doesn't? I only get angry because she... No, you get angry. Doesn't matter what she does. They crucified Jesus and he said, Father, forgive them. So what's your excuse? None to do with your wife, none to do with your boss. Yeah, but he shouted at me, threatened this. Yeah. You're responsible for your reactions. You're not responsible for what your wife does or what your boss does, but you're responsible for your attitude in answering it. Nobody could ever provoke you. Don't ever tell anyone you provoked me. They didn't. You got provoked. You got provoked, not they provoked you. They did something, but it provoked you. And you blame it, but you provoked me. You aggravate me. It's the wrong word. Aggravate means to make worse. They mean angered me. But they didn't aggravate you. They did something, and you got aggravated because you had a choice. Whatever they did, you didn't have to get aggravated, did you? Whatever they did, you didn't have to get angry. You have a choice. And so often we blame Sir If But and Just again. I wouldn't have lost my temper if. Guilty. Your attitude. And so the wrong master used it. If I get angry, which master used it? If I say, oh, well, blow your love, and I go out and slam the door, anger's all right. God gets angry. The quality's okay. That's why I'm saying the strengths and weaknesses are neutral. Anger isn't a weak thing, a negative thing, because God gets angry. The trouble is that that Adam got hold of anger instead of God. If God got over it, I would have been angry against sin. But I got angry against my wife. Adam used it. So that the strengths and weaknesses, anger, everything you can think of in your personality is good and bad. There is nothing bad in your personality. Nothing. Forget psychology. It's nonsense. It's a pseudoscience. It's satanic. When it comes from Freud and these people, and young people who are in the occult. That's where it came from, psychology. It's in the Bible. God makes nothing bad, does he? Does God make anything bad? Well, who made your personality, Satan? Did God make your personality? So there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. Your personality is 100% perfect. The problem is, Adam uses it instead of Christ. So don't blame your personality. You're the fault. Do not blame I was born with a bad personality. Poppycock, rubbish, balderdash, tripe, sewage, refuge water. And all that goes with it. It's nonsense. Your personality is wonderful. God made it. But you're letting Adam, the devil, use it. Face up to it and say, wow, I've got a good personality, really. The wrong master's using it. Isn't that a simple answer? We know it's true. Surely you know it's true. I don't have to tell my granny to suck eggs, do I? Surely you can identify with that. So jealousy, anger, hate, all neutral. God hates, God gets jealous. They're not negative or positive, they're just personalities. Stubbornness, that's the bad side of it. The good side is tenacity. Is he stubborn or tenacious? That's what I'm saying. A man in leadership has to decide whether a man is stubborn or just tenacious. Now, tenacity is a good quality. He doesn't give up. He won't let go easily. That's good. If he's stubborn, you've got to decide. Is he just holding on because that's his character? That's his personality. He doesn't let go easily. Not that he won't ever let go, but he won't just say, oh, yes, Pastor, he'll keep at you. Now, if he's stubborn, that's rebellion. You've got to deal hard with it. But it may just be that's his personality. Now, can you see how it's not easy? Because tenacity is a good thing. Don't break him. If he doesn't say yes, Pastor, straight away, don't say, oh, well, strike him off the registry. He's not a deacon. We do that. No, we'll give him the sack. Maybe it's just his personality. And if you reason a bit more with him and that, you'll find he's a good man. He's tenacious. So just direct him and he'll be tenacious for you instead of against you. Reason with him, he just needs a bit more explanation. He's not the sort of person who can just say, well, I don't agree with it. All right, Pastor. It's a good man who will stick at it. Yeah, but why, Pastor? Yeah, but I don't understand, Pastor. Is he being stubborn or just his character, his tenacious, he wants to know? It's not easy to discern, is it? Touchy. That's a terrible quality, isn't it? It could just be sensitive. Being sensitive is good, isn't it? Being touchy isn't. How do you decide it as a pastor, as a leader? How do you know if your worker is touchy or sensitive? You've got somebody working for you. Are they sensitive? That's all right. Understand it, they're sensitive. So be gentle with them. Don't try and make a man out of him. If he's a mouse, and if God's made him a mouse and he's meat, that's all right. You can get good work out of mice, can't you? You can't get anything out of a man if he's a big-headed and stubborn and a bully, can you? See, they're all good and bad. Sensitive or touchy. Possessive or protective. Which is it? It's good to protect, isn't it? He was possessive with his wife. Well, he could be, but maybe he's just protecting her. Maybe he loves her so much he's jealous of her, which is good. God is jealous of his church. You be jealous of your wife, men. You shouldn't be happy when other men are ogling at them and, come here, love. I don't like the way that man looks at you. Oh, you're too possessive. Because women like other men looking at them, don't they? It's nice. It's good for their ego. That's why they wear makeup and things. It's not just for you, men. You didn't think it was just for you, did you? Why do women wear nice clothes just to please the husband? No. They want to please you, but it's to please others as well. Men and women, they like to please other people, but they get attention off men. I give women compliments if they dress nice. It's nice that we do. It's good, godly that you do. Don't we appreciate women, men, when they make an effort for themselves and look nice? I appreciate my wife. I appreciate somebody else's wife if they dress nicely. I'm not after them. I say, you look really nice today, love. Isn't that what we should, shouldn't we? Women were made for men, so why don't we compliment when they put effort to put makeup on or wear nice clothes? That's nice. I suppose I could go on lots of more, but there's a few. Possessive or protective. I want to be protective to my wife, don't I? I don't want to be possessive, that's wrong. But I want to be protective. So how do you know in a church whether a man's possessive or protective? And take any quality that you want. And some traits are hard to decide, aren't they? Whether they're good or bad, it's hard to know. You need God's wisdom. Just some points for leaders, how to help develop people's potential. Because I'm doing that today. I'm trying to develop you. I've got a job on trying to develop mine. I mean, that's my lifetime's job to fulfill the purpose God made me. So I've no time for you really. But as a teacher, I'm trying to motivate you. So if you're a leader, you've got to do what I did and doing this morning and try and pass it on and learn. But what if you're a server or a worker or a leader? Now, personally, you yourself, me with my relationship to God, I've talked about people in authority. Well, the way to develop it is, number one, compare yourself with the best. Always compare yourself with the best. Does that sound bad? What's the point of me wanting to be a preacher? What do? Do I go to a church and the pastor can't preach for toffee? Couldn't preach his way out of a paper bag? What's the point of that? What's the point of me saying, that's the way to preach, and the man stutters, nobody listens to him, they all fall asleep? What's the point of comparing myself and saying I want to fulfill my potential as a preacher, and my example is a man who can't preach? If you want to be a preacher, you should say, God, will you show me the most godly preacher that I can follow? Now, we're fortunate, you know, we're in the age of technology. Did you know that you can follow the best preacher in the world? Because we've got television, we've got videos. In the old days, if there was a great preacher in America, you could never follow him, could you? You'd be limited to how far you could walk, or go on your horse or whatever. Now we have access to quality preachers. So why don't you look at the best and say, God, show me? Because I was taught that you're only as good as your teacher. No man can take you further than he himself is willing to go. Why is it that world-class athletes and world-class people have world-class coaches? How is it? You can't be world-class without the world-class teacher or coach. If you want to be a world's best violinist, who do you go to? Is he still alive, Yehudi Menuhin? Or if I wanted to learn jazz, I'd think Stefan Grappelli. He's one of the world's best jazz. Or Stuff Smith, you won't know these old ones. Stuff Smith, but Stefan Grappelli. But I was into jazz, so I knew all. They have weird names, those old jazz players, don't they? But some of these old players that were world-class, I'd think, he's the one to follow. What's the point of following a man down the road who plays the violin? It sounds like the old cow dying. There's no point, is there? If you want to fulfill your potential for God, you've got to look at the best. Compare yourself with the best and say, wow, I'm rubbish. You can think you're good because you sing in the local working men's club. And people will tell you, you know, if you're singing a working men's club, oh, like Frank Sinatra. In fact, he's better than Frank Sinatra, I think, you know. Brilliant. Have you heard him sing My Way? He did it. And brilliant. I don't go to the working men's clubs. That's next week. But they say, oh, it's brilliant. Shirley Bassey, my wife, knock her for 6. You should hear her sing. I forgot what she sings, Shirley Bassey. Goldfinger or something, I don't know. You should hear her sing it. And they actually believe in the working men's club that this person is better than Frank Sinatra. It's funny that they're getting paid, you know, 100 quid for the night. Frank Sinatra's got $500,000 for singing in Las Vegas. Funny, isn't it? And they're better. It's strange, isn't it? Do you know something? If you've got talent, it will not go unnoticed. Did you know that? People think, oh, nobody spotted me. That's because you're not as good as what you think you are. Did you know? Talent stands out a million miles. You can't miss it. If somebody sings... Sorry. You can't miss it, honestly. Teachers spot it in the school. They say he'll go far. If he sticks at his studies, he could go to Oxford. How do they know he could go to Oxford, for goodness sake? He's only 6, but the teacher spots it. They know. Why? Because the teacher's in education. Now the parents, I'm going to push my kids to go to Oxford, you know. They can't even pass the GCEs. And the poor kid's getting pushed by his parents because they want him to go to Oxford. And yet somebody who doesn't know his kid, who doesn't live with him, a teacher, has him for 6 weeks and say, whew, what an IQ, he could go to Oxford. Somebody who doesn't know it, because talent, you cannot miss it. If somebody's brilliant at football, a teacher says, wow, if he sticks at that, if he sticks at it, because don't forget, character fulfills the potential. The talent doesn't make you great, does it? You could have a talent and a gift to be a fantastic preacher. But if you haven't got the character, you'll never end up there, will you? You go to Bible college, think you're God's gift, and then run off with the church secretary because you're full of pride and ego. It's character that makes you great, not talent. You need the talent, but without character you won't get there. But it stands out a mile. If you can sing, well, they have these, this pop idol. They spend millions of pounds grooming people to see who could make it great. And the talent stands out a mile. This girl who's just finished Pop Idol, hasn't she got a contract for so many £1 million? And it's just gone to #1. They spotted the talent. People in the music business know talent. You won't go amiss. If you've got the talent, you'll get there. If you don't get there, don't say, well, I could have done it, you know. If only I'd have been spotted, you'd have been spotted. I'm telling you. If button just again, isn't it? If the talent scout had been when I was playing, don't worry. Somebody will tell a talent scout if you're a superstar. If you're a superstar, the word will get round. The school teacher will pass it on. There's lots of scouts and lots of people who know scouts. The word will get round. You know that? Hey, keep your eye on him. Keep your eye on her. Talent there. Singer. Preacher, watch him. He's only 7, and when he stands up and gives his testimony, you can see he's got something. Getting carried away, aren't you? So compare yourself with the best. If you realise God's given you something, compare yourself with the best. If you're a businessman, look at Richard Branson as someone who's not succeeded. How has Richard Branson done it from nothing? He's just started off with a recording studio. I remember him because I was in the music business. Borrowed some money off his aunt. Did you know that, Richard Branson? Borrowed some money off his aunt and was into all the drugs, pornography, everything. He was with the rock stars, into all that drugs, and that he could have easily gone the wrong way. He must have had the character to not get sucked into the drugs, to not get sucked into the sexual perversion, because he stayed at the top, hasn't he? Young man when he was and he's going, he owns aeroplanes, it's unbelievable what he owns now. Well, let's see how he's done it. I only want to be a window cleaner with a window cleaning round. Yeah, but you can learn the principles off somebody who's great. Read his life story. Why don't you read the life story of a great businessman and think, oh, I could get a few principles there. I can't use that. He was ruthless. I'm a Christian. But the principle, tenacity, don't give up, believe in yourself, or believe in God as you're a Christian. All these things. How do I find what God put in me? My last point. I've got a whole study on this, so I must finish, but I teach for 1 hour on finding the will of God. And I don't know how to condense it in 2 minutes, but Romans 12 says, present your bodies a living sacrifice, and don't be conformed to this world, but renew your mind, change your attitude. A lot of this has been about attitude. Nearly all my teaching, I don't know if you know, like I say, I've got 200 one sermon and 200 ways to say it. Because mostly I'm dealing with attitude, changing our mind. Because greatness is in your mind. Character is in your mind. It's all in your heart, your mind. It's not what you do. It's your innermost being. You're renewing your thinking. The outward takes care of itself. If you change your character, you'll be able to develop your talent. Forget the talent, develop your character, and you'll find your talent will blossom. But it says there in Romans an amazing thing. You don't realise how amazing it is. It said, do those 2 things. Present the outward, your bodies, as a living sacrifice, and renew your mind, change your attitude, start to think with God's principles instead of the world's and your own. And you will know, not guess, not think, you will know the perfect will of God. So the will of God doesn't start with Gabriel coming and telling us. It starts with you getting your act together, me. I got this sermon from my dad. My dad says, if you won't do the revealed will of God, God's told you to do that. So if you won't change your thinking, if you won't live a godly life outwardly, why will God give you his revealed will? Why will God tell you which wife to buy, or what car to buy, or what business to run, or what career to have? Why will God guide you if you're not doing the things that every Christian should do? Do you understand? Because you can't look in the Bible, because it doesn't say Ford cars, buy a Ford car. It doesn't say Joanna Barratt in the Bible, so how do I know how to marry? I need God to speak to me for my wife. I need God to speak to me what business should go in. There's a million businesses to try. Where do you start? Well, it's not in the Bible, is it? Landscape gardening, dustman, brain surgeon, they're not in the Bible. So how do I know what to be? Well, you do the things God's told you to do, and then God will guide you into to the other things. And that's the key. That's the key. God will guide you. He carries on. Read Romans after. Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. We've looked at it. And you'll find that people are usually doing naturally the things that's in them. A lad who's got in him to be great at football will have to be kicking a football. A man who's good at communicating will usually be communicating. People who are good at communicating, they're doing it all the time. You always see them with a crowd round them. Not because he thinks it's his potential, it's just natural. And you can spot that and say, hey, he's a communicator. And that means he could teach people, he could be on the pulpit. If you can communicate, you can be in front of people. So let me finish there. I've not talked about faith, but faith can do more than your potential. General Booth said to his granddaughter, how did you do? She'd been singing in the Salvation Army choir. How did you do, love? She says, well, Grandad, I did my best. He says, what? You did your best? She says, yes, Grandad. He says, that's no good. He says, with God, you can do more than your best. The world can do the best. Well, I give 100%. Yeah, but you can achieve more with God because you've got character. You can do 100% with character. Somebody can win by being a bully, by losing their temper and chinning somebody. We can win with graciousness, can't we? And accepting defeat when we do lose. And we can live it different. We can do more than our best. You can win and still be different than the world. Can you see how with God, faith makes you do more than your best? God's put 100% in you, but with 110%, with faith, you go the extra mile. Isn't that encouraging? You can do more than what God put in you naturally. The devil could use 100% of you, but God can use 110%. The devil can use your talents and your abilities, but God can use more because faith comes into it. There's a sermon there, I've not got time for that today. I've taken the note off my office door. That's on my office door when I close the door, so I look at it every time somebody goes out. Christians with talents and gifts are easy to find. Christians with dedication and humility are not. Thousands of Christians with talents and gifts, same as the world. Oh, he's gifted. Well, so what? So's all the world gifted. They can do sport, they can do politics, they can do business. So finding Christians with gifts and talents is easy. Finding them with character is not. That's what we work on. God's put that in you. Your talents and gifts you were born with. That's what's missing. Humility, dedication, character. Do you understand? If you only get anything out of the day, what's important is not your talent. You can only develop with character God's way. Lord, we pray you'll bless us now as we have something to eat. Lord, I've said a lot, probably spoke too long, but take away what's not fitting, Lord, and not what's not for us personally, and leave the things in that are.